Welcome to the Women Majoring in Marriage podcast with your host, Janice L. Vance. Girl, if you are a married woman that desires not just to have a surviving marriage, the kind that's just on cruise control, but actually want a thriving marriage, you are in the right place. If you are engaged, this show can inspire you to prepare for your marriage before preparing for that expensive wedding day. Oh, and all my single ladies out there that are in their season of waiting on God to send your husband, we've got something for you as well. Girl, marriage is not hard, but it certainly is work. So relax, get your pen and paper, and let us major in marriage.
Well, hello to all of my queens, and welcome to the Women Major in Marriage podcast with yours truly, Janice Vance. And as I always say, I thank you all for continuing to rock with me. I see you all listening to my podcast. My numbers are going up. And those of you that have been listening, I want to ask you to share those because I have a goal for the end of this year that I'm trying to reach, and I need your help. You know, a lot of times we get more support from people that we don't know than the people we know. But if you're my friend, share the podcast because I really don't do these podcasts just for me. It was something God laid on my heart to do and to help and inspire women. And as you know, I do the Women Major in Marriage coach is not only just for married women, it's for those that are married who want to make their marriage not just a not just a surviving marriage, but a thriving marriage. And to those that are engaged, to prepare them to be a wife before they prepare for their wedding day. And then those that are in a seasonal way to encourage them to continue away. So seem like that kind of covered everything except for those who don't care if they don't never get married. But this podcast, it talks about family, it talks about finance, is here to encourage women and encourage women in their journey. We can do a lot together. We can do a lot together. And that's why I do these podcasts. And I just want to thank you all because there's so many other platforms out there that you can be going to, but you choose to listen to them, you choose to share. And I want to say I appreciate you so very much. I have chosen this month, the month of October, which you all know is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I chose this month, um, and I thought it would be so befitting to get someone to share their journey. And I want to dedicate this month, this podcast, this awareness to those who have fought the fight and have survived, those that have survived, those that are still fighting, and to encourage them. And those that are still fighting, I hope that this podcast would encourage you that nothing is too hard for God. You just have to believe God. And I want to dedicate especially to my sister, Barbara Gail Carter, who has been a breast cancer survivor for 9 years. I want to dedicate this to you, Gail. I'm so proud of you. You was a trooper all the way through it. I can remember as if it was yesterday, the day that you got your diagnosis. And I want to say congratulations to you for fighting. And as a matter of fact, today that we doing this recording, it is your birthday. So God has allowed you to see another year. And then I'm so excited about my guest, y'all. My guest is no stranger to me. Almost about to tell my age. I've been knowing her ever since she was a little baby. She is one of my best friends, Felicia Renee Tarbert. That's her niece. And so I always felt like I was always a part of their family. The Felicia family was a big family. She was the baby and all these siblings. And then when my guest was born, she tried to take her from her mama. She thought that was her baby. She thought that was her baby. And so I just feel like a part of her mom. I've been knowing her mom, Catherine Townsend, and then her grandmother. Her grandmother back in August celebrated her 100th birthday, and I was there to witness that celebration, which is a blessing, which is Miss Maisel Townsend. So I feel like the guest here is no guest to me, no stranger to me. But when I reached out to her immediately, Immediately she said yes. I will be more than happy. So that when God lays somebody on my heart, I know when they accept it like that, I know it has to be a God thing. So I'm not going to prolong the time, but I want to introduce to y'all my guest. I'm going to tell you all about her. Her name is LaSharie Shuford. I didn't know that till she sent me her paper. I thought her name was Monique. We call her Monique. Monique, your middle name, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, I never knew that was her name. Beautiful name. But I'm going to introduce my guest that I'm so happy to have with me. She said, I am originally from Atmore, Alabama. However, I had been a resident of Montgomery, Alabama since I was in the 5th grade. I am a graduate from St. Jude High School, and I currently hold a master's degree in human resource management from the University of Maryland Global Campus. I have worked in the banking and finance industry for over 20 years. Wow. Monique, you're getting old.
I am. Don't
She
say my
worked
age.
She's been working over 20 years.
Yes.
I currently work for Navy Federal Credit Union as a branch manager. She had one daughter, Taylor, who is 23 years old, as well as a dog named Roxy Sage. That's a dog. I enjoy reading, spending time with family and friends. Monique, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for accepting this invitation. And I'm just going to leave the floor to you and let you talk to these women and leave them with something that they can take away that would encourage them. And it don't even have to be a person that been fighting breast cancer. No matter what you're going through, this will encourage you to let you know that God can do anything, that he can do anything. So I'm gonna let her have her way, talk to you all, and just take us back to the day that you, and I know that day is so clear to you.
Mm-hmm.
Take us back to the day that you received your diagnosis, or even if you want to go further back to when you start having symptoms. However you feel led, just have your way.
Okay. So I'll go back to when I kind of first started having symptoms. I remember one day I just finished working out and I was sitting on the couch and I felt like some itching in my breast. And I remember touching it and I thought I felt something, but I wasn't sure. So I was like,
Mhm.
oh, it's just itching. And I felt it again. And I was like, I don't feel anything. So I kind of brushed it off. As time went on, about a couple of months later, I noticed that I would be sleeping. When I got up in the morning, my shirt would be stained a little bit. So I'm
Mm.
like, I really don't think it's breast cancer. In your mind, sometimes you kind of got a feeling, but you just keep brushing it off.
Right.
So I was like, no, I don't think it's that because I don't have any of the other symptoms. So I was like, I don't think it's that. I'm just gonna not worry about it. But it kept happening. So I remember one night I woke up because I had to use the restroom and I looked down at my shirt and I had another stain on my shirt. So I went to the restroom and I got my cell phone. And as I'm going through my phone, I'm on Facebook. Every other ad that came up was a breast cancer ad about symptoms. So I'm looking like, no, like I don't have this symptom. I don't have this symptom. Like, I don't think I have breast cancer. So I kept putting it off. Well, eventually the same thing kept happening. It kept happening more often. So I said, okay, let me just go to the OBGYN. I go to the OBGYN. He's doing the self-exam and he was like, I don't feel anything. I don't think you have cancer. You're complaining of a little pain. Cancer doesn't hurt. Like, I think you just maybe going through some hormonal changes. I'm gonna send you home, try to lay off the caffeine, and we're gonna see if it gets better. A couple of months later, he had to go back because it didn't get better. So he
Mm.
did a self-exam again, didn't feel anything, but he was like, since you're still complaining and having issues, I'm gonna send you to get a mammogram. So got my mammogram set up. I went to my mammogram. When they were doing the testing, the technician on that particular breast, when she squeezed it down, like discharge came out. So she immediately left out of the room. Like she was gone for a long time. She came back and she was like, the doctor wants you to do an ultrasound. So they did my ultrasound. That took maybe like 10 minutes. But they kept going over one particular area. After everything was done, they told me that, everything was okay. They didn't find anything. I just had dense breast tissue. So in my mind, I'm thinking that I'm okay.
Mhm.
They just told me again, lay off the caffeine, everything should get better. It didn't get better. Still kept
Mm.
happening. So
Wow.
yes, so I had to go back to my OBGYN again. And he was like, well, if you're still having the same symptoms, I'm going to send you to the breast specialist in Montgomery. Got that appointment set up. Went to the breast specialist. She came in the room. I'll never forget it. She asked me to describe my symptoms, and she was like, okay, let me look at it. So as soon as she had me take off my robe and she looked at it, she walked out. She was like, I'll be right back. So she was gone for a long time. And she finally came back and she was like, well, does anybody in your family have a history of breast cancer? And I was like, well, my auntie was just diagnosed a year ago, but other than that, no. And she was like, well, I need you to go get an MRI like today. Like, your insurance may not pay for it. I'm not worried about that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Like, you need to go have this MRI. So I went to go have my MRI, and I'm scared of those machines 'cause I'm
Mm.
claustrophobic. So that was a struggle for me, but I managed to do it. And after then, it was probably maybe about a week late. No, it was a day later. She called and she was like, well, we need to do a biopsy. So got me scheduled for my biopsy, did that. It took about a week for those results to come back. So when I got my diagnosis, I was actually at work. So I was at work working, it was during COVID. I was actually in a meeting with my manager because my manager was at home with COVID. And I remember looking at the phone and it rung. And I was like, oh, this the breast specialist let me answer it. So told my manager to hold on and I answered it. And I remember the words. She said, we have your results. I wanted to let you know that you do have breast cancer. And this is the last time that you're going to hear from me. The next appointment that you will be scheduled for was like a month away. It was like at the end of the month, and you will speak to the breast specialist. And that's all she told me. And when you hear the words cancer, like that's
Yes.
scary.
Yes.
So I'm at work, and the next thing I know, I'm just screaming, crying on the floor, like people trying to console me. Because in my mind, all I could think about was Taylor, my daughter at the time. Like, I have to go through this. What's gonna happen to her? Like in my mind, it was a death sentence because that's how
Mhm. You
she
looked at
kind of
it.
said it to me. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm thinking it was this the end. So I remember I called my mom and she was like, get yourself together. Try to see if you can come to my house. So I managed, I don't know how, grace to God, I guess. I managed to get up off the floor and I left work and I went to my mom. And I remember her, I'm sitting there, I'm crying, and she's telling me, cancer is not a death sentence. Like, we don't even have all the facts. Like, the Lord bring people through things every day. You don't have to look at it like it's a death sentence. People are
Yeah.
healed all the time. So I kind of
Mhm.
took her words and kind of, okay, I understand what you're saying, like I'm processing it. So I told her, I'm ready to go back to work. And she was
Mhm.
like, huh? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready to go back to work. And she said, you sure? And I was like, yes, ma'am, I'm going back to work. So on my drive back to work, I remember telling God, I was like, God, if you get me through this, I promise you, anytime somebody asks me to speak, anytime somebody asks me to get in
Mhm.
front of somebody, I do it. And that was
Wow.
just my way of saying, like, you in control. Like, whatever. I know you had me going through this for a reason. And believe it or not, I'm actually shy. I don't like to talk in front of people. So for me
Wow.
to say, okay, like, I know I'm going through this for a reason, whatever path you have me on, I accept
Yeah.
it and Imma let you handle it. And from that point on, I put it in God's hands.
Yes. Wow. Wow. And the title that she chose was, and I had forgot the minute, The Storm is Over Now. That is so, so befitting. So when you end up having to go through your treatments,
Mhm.
what was that like? What was that like? And how did your baby, well, she ain't no baby, she's 23. How did she accept the news?
Um, to be honest, telling her was probably the hardest thing that I have ever had to do in my life. Um, I actually had to get her dad to kind of assist, because I couldn't tell her. It was just that difficult. That's my only child.
Yes.
But when we broke the news to her, and I actually couldn't say anything, her father told her, she kind of was like, okay. Like, I don't think it hit home just then. And
Mhm.
I also think that she didn't want to react in front of me. So I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure she probably
Had
cried
her
and,
moments.
yeah, had her moments when she left. But that was the hardest thing I have ever had to do. I will say she was a trooper. At that particular time when I was diagnosed, she was getting ready to go back to Birmingham Southern University because that's where she was in school at in Birmingham. She did take a leave of absence. She came home. She was basically my caregiver at that time. She drove me to and from my appointments, and I didn't do treatment locally. I did treatment in Georgia. So she drove me to and from Georgia, like whatever I needed, she was my caretaker because at that
Mhm.
time, COVID was going on. So no one
Right.
could come in and out anyway. So
Right.
anything that I needed, she was there.
Wow.
Um, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, PR positive. So that means it was hormone positive.
Mm.
And so with it being invasive, meaning that it travels it outside of the breast, I had 2 lumps in my breast and it was in my lymph nodes. I had 2 lymph nodes that were infected. Because of that, I did have to do chemo. I also had to have a mastectomy and I also had to have radiation.
Mm.
So treatment was a lot. It's difficult. The only thing that I can tell anybody is to just stay in prayer. Stay in prayer, stay positive. Um,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So Monique, there was lumps there, but they didn't even show up on your ultrasound.
no, they didn't show up on my ultrasound, they didn't show up on my
They didn't show up on your
mammogram.
mammogram.
They only showed up on the MRI. And from what I have come to understand is because I have dense breast tissue. So when you have dense breast tissue, it's hard for them to detect anything through a mammogram or ultrasound. So you have to
Mm.
ask for an MRI. That's the only way they're gonna be able to find it. And I also
Mm. Mm.
learned
I,
that um there are certain factors that contribute to you getting breast cancer. For instance, like I started my cycle early. I started my cycle when I was in the 5th grade. That's a factor. No one ever,
wow.
no one ever said anything. Like even if you have dense breast tissue, no one ever said, "Hey, you need to ask for an MRI." Those are things that no one ever tells you about. And at the time
Yeah.
that I was diagnosed, I was 38. So at 38, you still consider young. But
Yes.
most people now, especially the young adults, they're being diagnosed with breast cancer at a young age. And a lot of the times it's not detected until it gets to stage 4. That's when they find out.
You was already in stage 4.
No, I wasn't in stage 4. So
Okay.
when I was diagnosed at stage 2. But
Wow.
after chemotherapy and after I had my surgery, when I found out it was actually stage 3 because of the size of the tumors.
Oh. Wow. That's a lot of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you would recommend that everybody stay up on their mammogram, get the
Yeah.
mammogram, and then, like you said, the dense breast. And
Mm-hmm.
that has me thinking because that's what my doctors say. They always say that when I have my mammogram, or my doctor when I'm going to my OB doctor, they'll say you had dense, or lumpy breast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I noticed my breast that is that way, but if you ain't if that's the only breast you ever felt, you think that's normal.
Right, right.
So I was like, well, yeah, I know that they feel that way. Those are called dense breasts. I said, oh, okay then. Well, I didn't know. It ain't like I'm going around feeling up breast.
Right,
So
right.
so I'm like, I thought everybody felt like that. Yeah, but that's a lot of knowledge, and that's good. That's good to know. So, did you feel the wear and the tear? I know being around people, and I actually volunteered for hospice some years ago. I was still working. I volunteered for them for 6 years, and I did that when I was working because my dad was he had lung cancer, and he had a hospice nurse, and she was just so nice. And I just said, you know what? I want to volunteer for hospice. I want to be one of those volunteers that help the caregiver,
Mhm.
relieve the load for the caregiver. Just if I just do 2 hours a week, that'll be fine. And I learned a whole lot about cancer when I was doing that volunteer. And I know that it's a lot of wear and tear on your body going through those treatment, and especially radiation. So I'm sure there was some days you just didn't even feel like getting out of bed.
Now the radiation wasn't that bad for me. The hardest
It
thing was
was.
it wasn't. The hardest thing was chemotherapy. Um,
Wow.
yes, I had 2 drugs. One of them they call the Red Devil. It's supposed to be the most powerful one of the most powerful chemo drugs that you can get. So I had that one and I had another one that was called Taxol. The Red Devil, surprisingly, I did okay with. I didn't have many moments of where I was just sick, throwing up. I just was really, really tired a lot.
Mm,
Now, when I got the Taxol, that was a different story. I developed what's called neuropathy, and it kind of feels like electricity shooting all over your body. So I had it in my arms, legs, in my head. So it caused me to stay awake all the time. Like I rarely got any sleep when I was on that particular
wow.
chemo drug. But for the most part, the chemotherapy was the roughest part for me.
Hard for you. And you said you had your treatments in Atlanta?
Yes, in Noonan, Georgia.
In Newton, Georgia. Okay, okay, okay. And you liked that facility.
Yes, and I'll tell you a brief story about why I decided to go there. So it's just a testament to how God prepares you even when you don't know He's doing so. So in 2019, my uncle, he was diagnosed with cancer, and he actually ended up going to the cancer center in Georgia. At that time,
Right,
we were thinking that okay, we're there for him,
right.
at that time, I was able to see the level of care that they provided.
Mm,
Unfortunately, he passed away, but I would say that was the reason why I went there because I was able to see the level of care that they provided. And the one thing about that particular cancer center, everything that you need is in that building. So I never had to venture outside of the building. All my doctors are in one facility.
wow, wow. Did you ever have to stay there
Yes.
after your
So
surgery?
yes. So I had a long list of surgeries. So when you take chemo, it depends on how they do chemo. So normally when I would go for chemotherapy, I would have to stay for at least 2 days. I would do my 2 days and then I would go home. Now, when I got to my surgeries, I actually had several surgeries. So my first surgery, I had my mastectomy. and I had to stay there. That's an overnight surgery. So I had my surgery one day. They discharged me the next day, and I stayed locally for about 2 weeks.
Mhm.
The next surgery, I actually had to have my ovaries and fallopian tubes removed because most people don't know that ovarian cancer is a sister cancer to breast cancer. So they
Wow.
wanted to kind of get ahead of the game. So
Mhm.
they left it up to me because they didn't find anything, but they just told me, it would probably be beneficial. So I went ahead and I had that procedure done. That was an easy procedure. It was a in-house procedure, same day procedure. So they did it and I went home the next day. And then the last surgery that I had was actually reconstruction.
Okay.
That surgery was a
I
little bit longer.
yeah.
um, because I elected for them to take the fat from my stomach to
Mhm.
rebuild my breast. So I was
Mhm.
at ICU for that particular surgery for a week, and I stayed locally for at least a month.
Wow. 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 And you've been feeling good ever since?
Yes, I've been feeling fine. You still deal with fatigue a lot. You deal with fatigue. I'm still tired. I've been done with treatment since I had my last surgery last year. So I'm still tired, still fatigued. I am on hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
So with that, you kind of develop a whole nother set of problems because you experience bone pain. So a
Oh,
lot of the days, my bones may hurt, they may ache, but I just stay focused and keep pushing.
keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. Keep going. Wow, that's awesome. So Monique, what would you our listeners, if we had the listeners out there, what would you tell what would you want to leave them with? What thought would you want to leave them with? How important it is to get your checkup. If you suspect anything,
I would
get another
say,
opinion.
listen to your body. Um, your body normally tells you when something is wrong. You just have to pay attention. So if you're
Mhm,
having symptoms, and it could be a symptom of anything, it doesn't necessarily have to be cancer. Like, don't put it off.
mhm,
Definitely go get it checked. I do think that when you go to the doctor, they're so busy with seeing this patient and seeing this patient that they may not take your concerns seriously. Definitely advocate for yourself. Don't take no for an answer. Because
mhm.
I don't know if people are aware, but just in the Black race as a whole, there are so many disparities in healthcare. So you definitely have to advocate for yourself. If one doctor doesn't listen, find you another doctor. Keep going back. Keep going back.
Mm,
As you can see from my story, I had to go like 3 times.
3 times.
Yes, to try to get some type of help or some type of resolve for the situation. So definitely advocate for yourself.
Right, right. And then thinking of your symptoms and going to the doctor for the symptom that you were describing, you would think that the doctor would the first time would have said, "Hey, let's just do this," because I'm sure they done had some people with the same symptoms. And because you was young, you know what I'm saying? That's what they were
Mhm.
looking at, you young, and you would have thought they would have said, "Well, let's just get checked anyway." But it was good that you did what was needed to see about yourself. That's awesome.
I think too, being young, for some reason, being young and having cancer don't they I guess doctors feel like that doesn't go hand
Yeah,
in
they don't
hand.
go together.
Right. But anybody can get cancer. It could
Yeah,
be genetics. In my case, it wasn't genetics. It was just something that my body did. But even at
right,
38, as you can see, I still developed cancer. And if
right.
I didn't take the extra precautions or I didn't advocate for myself, who knows where I would be today?
Exactly. Exactly. And it was interesting too to hear you say that you started your cycle at age 5 and that's one thing that they tell you, that your chances are, I guess your hormones and stuff mature faster. That was interesting for me to know. I didn't know that.
The 5th grade, when I was in the
Fifth grade.
5th grade,
Fifth,
yeah.
what I said,
Age
5.
5.
Oh, girl,
It's
the
okay.
5th grade. I meant to say the 5th grade. Yes, the 5th grade, and that's young.
Mhm.
That's
I've
young.
always
You've been
had
mature a long time.
problems with that breast. And I just look back, like you mentioned earlier, when you said that you have lumpy breasts. Well, I remember being in high school having to go see a specialist because they felt lumps in my breast. Flash
Mm,
forward when I had Taylor,
mm,
my milk didn't dry up on that side, the same side that I had breast cancer on. My milk wouldn't dry up. So they ended up having to stick a needle in and insert some dye to see like what the issue was. And I had an issue with one of the, I can't think of what you call it, but the part where the milk comes out, I had an issue
uh-huh.
with one of those.
Wow.
And that could have contributed to the fact that I had breast cancer because of the fact that that milk didn't dry up properly like it should
Yeah,
have.
should have, right.
Mhm,
So there was some different signs.
mhm.
Yes, yes. Wow. Well, is there anything else you want to say, Monique? You have really shared a lot, and I really appreciate you. I appreciate you for your boldness. A lot of times, God allows us to go through things in our story. We have to realize that a lot of time our story is not just for us, it's to
Right.
help other people. And I appreciate you recognizing that and being willing to do that. And how you said that in the car, you told God that you would do this. And I just appreciate you so much, so much for
You're
your
welcome.
willingness to come on here and share your story. So, ladies, I pray that you will share this video. You have to download the Spotify app. If you download the Spotify app and you're only hearing the audio part, then you haven't downloaded something right, because you should be able to see the video when you download the Spotify app. Now, if you just click on the link, it might just take you to the audio. I ask you to go and download the Spotify app so that you can actually see us doing this video. But I want to thank you all. Thank you, ladies. Share this, share this, share this. And you might pick who you share it with, and you might be sharing it with a person, because some people don't even discuss it. They go through it and try to hide it, go through it and not tell anybody, go as far as they can go without telling people. There's a lot of people deal with cancer. They don't tell anybody. So you never know. So you say, well, I'll just share this. If the Lord laid this person on your heart for you to share this video, share it with them. Share, share, share. And then they share it with somebody, because you never know who needs to hear this. You never know who received their diagnosis of breast cancer last week, yesterday, 2 weeks ago, a month. They're getting ready. And so this would encourage them that if God did it for her, I'm just going to believe God can do it for me. So, ladies, thank you, thank you, thank you. Go enjoy the rest of your day. And as I always say, I always try to leave a person better than you found them. Have the great rest of your day. Monique, hang on
Thank
for
you
a
so much
minute.
for joining us for this episode of the Women Majoring in Marriage podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to like, subscribe, leave a review, or comment. All that good stuff that helps other folks like you find the podcast. Please come back every month on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday for new episodes. You can also find Janice on our website, www.janicevance.com, where you can order her book, Women Majoring in Marriage. And for more fun content, be sure to check out our Facebook group at Women Majoring in Their Marriage. Also, if you have any questions or would like to reach out, feel free to send us an email at themarriagemajor@gmail.com. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.